Oh, here. One of these nights.
That's really helpful. Thanks.
One of these crazy, crazy nights, you're going to find out, pretty mama. All right, now we just got to wait for our lovelies to show up. Cheers, baby girl. Boop.
You did a great job, baby. I love that.
That was super fun to read. Also, this scotch is wonderful. Wunderbar.
Yeah, that's a nice one.
He's wunderbar.
Hey, Sean and Pam. Very nicely done.
Pam, you're not quite first.
She is on YouTube.
By a smidgen. First on YouTube. There you go. Perfect. Perfect. Let's go to chat while we wait for everybody to come on, reeling on in.
Rocco, thank you for joining
Reeling
again.
in the years. Edward Rocco.
I'm really excited about this new collection. It's sort of fun.
Tell them why.
I think because, Scott's hugely influenced by music, and we have spent about a month picking these songs, and we don't have a full list yet. And it's been so interesting because I think he mentioned, and we'll talk a little bit about this when we start recording too.
Hey, Tim Clark.
This idea of some stories are just the inspiration for him is just going to be the title of the song, and some might have something to do with the lyrics and some might not. And I love this idea because I don't have that creativity in my head, but I love the idea of it. I love that he is absolutely taking each song title as a jumping off point, and that's got to be fun a little bit.
It's very fun. And David Lamb asks, how many stories are in this collection? We don't have a specific number yet, but it's probably going to be, it's going back to our youths,
For sure.
It's going to be 11 to 13. Because that is how many tracks were on an album. And yes, absolutely. Click like, you guys, smash like, ring that bell. If you're not subscribed to YouTube, subscribe for crying out loud. If you're on Facebook, click like.
And listen, if the only way you feed the algorithm is to lick the button, I guess you can
lick
do that
the
too.
button.
Somebody put that, John put that in the chat room.
As John Bivens licked the button. All right, let's go back to Maine.
I love it.
Okay, guys, and we're going to that's a little too, I found my glasses, by the way.
I saw.
They were in the drawer.
Yeah, well.
I think I'm good. I don't think I need them for this.
Okay.
But, all right, here we go. We're almost set. Close out a couple things. And there's our script. I can use the script right there. And I'm missing one thing in my brain. I can't figure out what it is. I don't remember.
Okay.
Oh, we need to have Logic open. Okay.
Yeah,
Rob Otto, by the way, we have fixed the problem with Zoom. That's what I spent a lot of time on Monday or Tuesday. So next time we have you on as a guest, it'll go smooth as silk. Probably not. But it's in much better. Why am I? This is goofy. Hold on.
I will tell you guys a story. I used to write for a blog called skepchick.org, and we had an ongoing series because I engaged with a lot of new flavors or scents or whatever in my life by kind of doing this, like a little lick, like a little. And so we had a running routine blog post that would happen every once in a while called Will A Lick It. And I retired that shingle and hung up that recurring blog post when somebody brought me fish candy from Japan. And fish candy from Japan, I'm not exactly sure what's in it, but it doesn't seem like candy, and it does seem a lot like stink bait. So I was done.
That sounds gross.
Yeah, it was pretty done.
We are getting a stereo signal in my track. I have no idea why, because we selected as a mono track and it's mono. But Steve, there may be problems in the future. But let's get into it. You ready?
Problems. Sure. Are you recording?
Not yet.
All right.
Let's go ahead and record. Check, check, check.
Check, 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 check.
It shows stereo, but it's recording in mono. Let me just check. Yep.
Good.
Don't know what the fuck's going on. Very weird. Always weirdness. Okay, baby, ready?
I am ready.
Okay.
Excited to see you guys.
Move this over here. You can see this. I really can't too much, but I'm going to get this here.
Well, I have this here, so if you want to keep that there and then
I
move
need to
that
be able
over.
to present to the
no
camera.
problem.
Okay. Mhm. Of course, we're going into deep cuts, you guys.
Yeah.
So there's nothing you need to stick with us for the story.
Here we go.
Okay, ready? It is week 12 of my favorite season, American football season. It's no secret that I am a dyed-in-the-wool football fan. In fact, my earliest memory in my entire existence as a human being was sitting on my dad's knee watching 16 millimeter football film. So from my very first day of awareness, my first day of memory, I've been watching football. And the Detroit Lions have been a constant in my life. So it is no surprise that I am thankful for the NFL.
And me, I am comparatively quite new to football, only having watched for about 15 years. And I have never played a down, never played football. But I am also very thankful for the NFL.
We're going to talk about that as part one of our two-part Thanksgiving special, where we give thanks to the sport of American football, tell why we love it, tell why some of our fans love it. And we will talk about all that along with some of y'all's stories right after this quick break. Ready?
Not quite. Yep.
Wait,
What happened?
I fucked up. Ready?
Yep.
Welcome to Deep Cuts, the bonus episode of the Scott Sigler Slices Fiction Podcast. We're a sci-fi author and an audiobook narrator, discuss things and stuff in the world of fiction and pop culture, and today also in the sports. I am Scott Sigler, sci-fi horror author, known far and wide as the future Dark Overlord.
And I am A.B. Sigler, audiobook narrator and publisher at Empty Set Entertainment. And tonight, we're talking about why we're thankful for the NFL.
The NFL. A reminder, this is a bonus episode of the Scott Sigler Slices feed. It is not part of any particular story. You don't have to listen in to keep up with my current tale, but we think you might dig this peek behind the storyteller curtain and to take a look at a part of our fascination and love for the sport of American football.
Yeah, let's get into it. You going to switch us to that? Yep.
Wait, sorry, switch to what?
The deep cuts?
Oh, of course. There we go.
So we come from different places with the NFL, but a lot of you wrote in and talked about how you came to enjoy or appreciate the NFL. So we're going to talk first. I think we're going to have him tell his story. We're going to talk about some of what you guys wrote in. We'll talk about my story. And let's just get into it.
Let's get into it. We're going to share a few stories from junkies, from fans of the Siglerverse, and why they are grateful or thankful for the NFL. First one is from Mel Byers. Said, the NFL helps me teach my students all sorts of things they would otherwise not care about in high school. I teach math in an all-boys private school, and leveraging the students' investment and fandom has helped me explain so many concepts that might otherwise have been boring. Geometry, trigonometry, spatial relationships, and physics, especially for me. But I've also used the NFL to talk about compromise, fairness, loyalty, and why rules matter. I think this is fantastic, because I remember when I was in high school, I mean, I got math. I wasn't dumb with math, but I also wasn't very smart with math. And when I got to statistics and some more advanced concepts, I just tuned out because none of it made any sense. And not one teacher ever was like, oh, statistics, let's talk about average points per game in basketball. Let's talk about how your accuracy declines the farther you get from them. Nobody ever brought up sports ever.
And goodness, for physics?
Yeah.
Physics would have been so helpful because I could have literally looked at my teammates on the field.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have to look at the NFL. I could have looked at people who were in my math and geometry classes on the weekend when they were playing football and learned some of those concepts. It's totally true.
It is, in my opinion, thank you, Mel, for being a teacher and sharing and helping people advance in life. But it wasn't until I got to college and after college, I got mad because as a science fiction writer, I probably should have spent more time studying physics, studying science. Biology, of course, was a huge buff in biology, but the non-squishy cell bit kind of sciences. And there's so much statistics in sports. Rob and Dan and I used to play a game called Stratomatic, where they would analyze, say, the 1986 season of basketball, and you would get that in, and you would be able to play 1986, and then 87, you would get the 86 stats, and you could have a little card for each player, and it would statistically mimic a typical NBA basketball score at that time. Nobody ever explained that for teaching or anything like that. It was really a bummer. And physics in particular, The Physics of Football is an excellent book. I have that book. And but
I also think it's such an interesting thing because this idea of taking something that the students are interested in and using that as the impetus to talk about the teaching that you need to do, that happened to me in high school. I didn't respond to it actually because it was about the WME at the time. The WWE at the time. And now, what is that now? The WWF?
No, it was the WWF. Now it's WWE.
Okay, so the WWE, it was huge. I know now, today, it was hugely impactful to that classroom, which was mostly boys. I'd say 70-30. And I think it was impactful for more than just the boys, but it wasn't impactful to me because I never watched until I was in senior in high school, any WWE. So it didn't respond. But I remember my teacher talking about, you have to know with certainty that you're not going to hurt irreparably your opponent. You're supposed to fight within the rules. And of course, even back then, we knew that this was all scripted, but still you have to, that's even more important. You must make sure you do not injure your opponent. So you have to understand when you jump, how far you jump, where you're going to land, how much that's going to hurt, all that jazz.
And getting back to the NFL, all the major pro sports are just this bastion of statistical information to the point where franchises now actually make decisions on what players they're going to acquire based on a number of parameters. A great movie called Moneyball, and that concept that was in Moneyball has percolated up to the NBA, to the NFL, the NHL, etc. But I think ready to move on to the next one?
No, I want to mention we have a teacher in the chat room on YouTube, Pam Weber, a good friend of mine, and she says one of the teachers in her school used fantasy football to teach statistics. She says they tracked fantasy football players' stats and built their teams from there, I believe. That is a thing that I will talk about when I talk about why I really like football, because it keeps me learning and growing and working hard about things that aren't going to impact my life in a very real way. And I think that's really good for us. But yeah, should I read about Tim?
Yeah, go ahead and read Tim.
So Tim Homolka wrote in, I am not a lifelong fan of football, but have grown to love the NFL for bringing me closer to my family. I am one of 4 kids in our family, all boys, and I'm the youngest, and I was not much into sports growing up. Family holidays normally meant all the men but me and my boyfriend watching football, and us hanging with most of the women except for one sister-in-law who loved it. After reading The Rookie, I promised myself I'd watch a game for as long as I could. Mm-hmm. It turned out I could kind of follow along, and any question I had were enthusiastically answered. All these years later, I often watch football with my family and without my family, and I am unabashedly a 49ers fan. Rough year for me.
Ben, you boys are you boys still in it. Boys still in it, Tim. That's awesome. And there's clearly some subtext in there too about, for certain demographics in North America and America, the world, football can be a bit of a walled garden type thing.
Yeah.
And that is one of the things I am thankful to the NFL for. For most of my life, the NFL, starting with Pete Rozelle back in the 80s, has worked very, very hard to send a constant message that you are welcome here, no matter who you are, what you like, where you come from, what language you speak, where you live in the world. We don't care. We've got a great product, and we would love for you to check it out and learn about it and be part of it. the NFL's outreach to the Latino community has been going on for like 40 years now. And their outreach to women has been going on for at least 30 years. Like, this is a concentrated marketing effort they have done to be like, okay, yes, maybe the guys are kind of jerks and won't let you in, but we're the NFL and we want you here. We want your money and we want your time and we want you to be happy that you've spent both with us. So I think that's one of the reasons I'm very grateful for the NFL is from the get-go, as far as I can remember, they've been like, we don't give a shit who you are. This is a great sport and you will love it and we want you here.
And one of the other things that I love about this email that came in is I'm the same way. I wasn't sort of relegated to the kitchen at holidays or not watching football during holidays. I just wasn't watching football because I didn't really understand it and I didn't want to be an obstruction and I wanted everybody to enjoy their day, including me. And I love to cook. So I was often at holidays, like in the kitchen or whatever. But the reality is what he says there about, he doesn't say to my surprise, but he did say, like, everybody was very happy to answer every question I have. It is one of the biggest surprises of my life that I think this is my 16th season watching football.
Mm-hmm.
And this year, Scott has said to me, listen, I love you asking questions about football. I could talk with you about football all day. I have zero problems with you asking a million questions. And even now, 16 seasons later, there's a part of me that's like, oh, I don't want to like infringe on his enjoyment of watching.
You don't want to sound stupid about the game.
It's both. I don't want to make you have to stop and pause and talk to me when you're trying to just enjoy your day, and I don't want to feel stupid. And yet, every single time I ask a question that he is like, oh, I see why you didn't see that before, he's thrilled about it.
So
and
fun.
I think that's a thing that I didn't see about my family too, because my brother and my dad are huge football fans. And now that I am too, we can talk a lot more thoughtfully about it. And I think that's important.
So a couple questions coming in from the chat room. Of course, you're listening after the fact. We do a live stream every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. You can join us at youtube.com/Scott Sigler, twitch.tv/Scott Sigler, or facebook.com/Scott Sigler. David Lamb asks, does it surprise you the NFL has not caught on more in other parts of the world? It has caught on in other parts of the world. The fan base in Europe is strong and growing. The NFL is now doing as many as 8 to 10 games a year over in Europe, and all of those games sell out at the biggest stadiums in Europe.
The Madrid one was insane.
If you look at the stands, it is full of not just the jerseys the teams are playing, but pretty much the jerseys of all of the teams. So the NFL is actively working to develop that market, and they are also in Mexico and Mexico City. There are games there. And they put a lot of effort into it. So is it as popular as regular football or soccer? No. The regular soccer still dominates on the global stage, but the NFL is making concerted efforts to be like, hey, you can like this, and we want you here.
I do have to say this, though. There is a logistics problem. I'm a logistician by training, and there is a logistics problem. These are human beings, and so to make it a global sport but have all the teams based in North America makes it difficult on the players to effectively compete, I'll say, across the world. So I think one of those issues is we have an NFL, which is a national football league.
That's correct.
Not an international football league. And I think that hamstrings people from being able to go and enjoy it. And it also hamstrings the players who fly overnight, rest 2 days, play, then have to be back on Sunday somewhere else. Those are difficult things to do. So I think that this is actually true for football and soccer, what I'll call soccer. I think if we had global teams and an international league, that would work.
It's coming.
It's coming, but it's not yet here. I think that's the only thing that's missing.
I think we're probably 15 to 20 years away, but eventually there will be NFL Europe will make a research. It will come back. And what you're probably going to see is pro football leagues in different countries that are under the NFL umbrella, and then we'll eventually move to a World Cup of football. But as far when A said North America, eventually we're going to have Canadian NFL teams, and we will have Mexican NFL teams in Mexico, because some of that is it's easier for the Houston Texans to drive to a game in Mexico City than it is to drive to California. Don Shipley asked, they let you watch, but why don't women play in the NFL? It seems like the rest of the sport wants nothing to do with women and girls playing the game. That is nothing more than physiology at this point. Every team in the NFL, at one point, teams in the NFL would not take a black player, and they would not take a black quarterback because they were like, well, black quarterback can't win. They're just not smart enough. Then Doug Williams for the Washington Redskins proved everybody wrong. And now it is, I think there's more black quarterbacks maybe now than there are white quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And so that is coming, but physiology.
Did you say who said that about?
Oh, it was absolutely common trope. That is referenced
Brother, ooh.
in the Galactic Football League series. That is referenced via no quarterback from the purest nation has ever won a Galaxy Bowl, and they can't because they're not smart enough because they're from this backwater planet. So that was a common perception amongst white people and white owners in particular. But that has been proven wrong. But football is an extraordinarily violent physical game.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think there is eventually maybe a place in the NFL for women as place kickers. Not long distance, because there's just the physiology involved. Doesn't it benefit them? But overall, it is a game that rewards speed, size, and strength. And on average, a man's speed, size, and strength is significantly greater than a woman's speed, size, and strength.
And unlike many other leagues in the world, the NFL doesn't have a women's league. And if you had a women's league, speed, size, and strength would be comparative in the women's league.
In the women's league.
But we don't have the women's league.
Not yet. Well, they flag the NFL is working on a flag football league.
And I think the NFL has waited too long, and rugby should take over this challenge. That's what I think.
Okay. Rugby. Yeah, women's rugby crushes.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to the next fan-based thing. Eventually we're going to get to why A and I are grateful.
Yep.
But here we go. Do you need a commercial break?
Not yet.
Okay. Joseph Malone says, the NFL is one of the only reasons I adore this one, because this is me to a T. I didn't realize I did this until I read this from Joseph Malone.
And I didn't realize that until just now.
He says, the NFL is one of the only reasons I give myself permission to just relax, and it's one of the only times I feel justified resting, because with 3 young kids, there's always mountains of stuff that needs doing. But we all watch the Cardinals together. Admittedly, sometimes the kids are more invested in their toys, but they will come around. And it's the only time of the week we're all doing the same activity, more or less. It's not much, but it makes a difference in this hectic time of life. Taylor Swift becoming a football fan made it okay for my daughter to become a football fan. So she's a holdout for the Chiefs, but he is working on it.
Because
if your life is poisoned by your shitty franchise, your children's lives should be poisoned by your shitty franchise.
If I have to suffer, you should suffer.
The gift you give to the next generation is everything is going to suck for you eventually. We're not going to get too much into the Taylor Swift thing, but it has been an absolute
but it is lovely that was the way in, right? It's a little fun thing where he's like, this is fun. We're all doing it as a family. And she's like, no. Okay.
But the concept of he and I can't be the only one. On Sunday, I mostly allow myself to relax. Most of the time, I have a card table set up in front of the TV with my computer.
That's true.
And during commercials, I'm still working on stuff for us and really only relax when the games are on. But by and large, the only 2 times, there's 3 things two things I completely take off. If I'm out on a date with A, the phone is put away.
That's true.
I am not
more than mine.
Yeah, I'm not working. I'm not looking at anything. I'm chilling the F out. And on Sundays or Thursday nights or Sundays or Monday
sometimes
nights,
Saturdays,
I let myself sit down, have a drink, relax, eat, do all that stuff. So I'm thankful to the NFL, because as a workaholic and an entrepreneur what are we now? Sole proprietors? We're not sole proprietors.
We're sole proprietors.
As sole proprietors together, there's no end to the amount of work that needs to be done. I can't even imagine throwing a kid in that mix. That's crazy. All right.
It is time for a quick break. If you have a minute, if you can listen to the ads, there's only one or two, and it really helps us and helps the cast. We'll be back right after this.
Ready? And we are back.
This episode, we're thankful. This episode, we're talking about why we're thankful for the NFL.
Because these episodes are coming out around Thanksgiving, and we have a two-parter.
Exactly. I do want to hear yours, but first I want to read your co-author, Rob Otto, why he's thankful.
Otto.
I
Oh,
know,
my
my
goodness.
favorite. Rob Otto says, my love for the NFL was because of the great job NFL Films did. Great point. They had half-hour shows on ESPN that told the history of the players, teams, and moments. The iconic voice was John Facenda, and he was a part of the reason I wanted to go into
Oh my God,
broadcasting.
that's great.
That's awesome. He coined the phrase,
The frozen tundra of Curly Lambeau Field.
So good. And I have actually, as I grow and learn about football, have seen a lot of NFL films on YouTube for this reason, or what I can see. So I totally appreciate that. That's such an interesting thing. Do you want to talk a little bit about your connection with the NFL?
Well, I think I want to go through these other stories as quick as we can. Eventually, we'll get to mine.
Okay.
Some great stuff in here. So, Junkie Rosie Cox says, I love the NFL because it gives me something to talk about with my older family members. And I will get to this. And we can argue and disagree, and it's all still good fun. Baseball, too, but the NFL is just big enough to be as all-consuming as you want while being small enough to keep track of things at a high level. Baseball and basketball are fun, but it's too much for Josie to keep track of.
Me too, though. That's a really good point.
Yep.
Like understanding all the things at play, I think would be impossible for me right now for basketball and baseball. There's just so many teams, so many games, so much.
It's too much. It's too much. And the thing is with the NFL is every single game is critical. Every single game. And that's before you get into the playoffs. So baseball has over 100 games. NBA is like around 100 games. You can go on a 5-game losing streak and not be worried at all. In the NFL, that is not the case, bro. It is high pressure all the time.
And I never even thought about that. I enjoy watching football. I enjoy watching baseball. I enjoy watching basketball. But I really dig the fantasy aspect of football that I've gotten into in the last few years. I'm learning a lot, and it's really challenging for me. And I don't think I could keep up if there is fantasy baseball or fantasy basketball, which I assume
There
is.
absolutely is. It's a whole lot. Now, we had an earlier question, why hasn't football caught on the rest of the world? And here we have a Canadian, Michael Evans says, I haven't been an NFL football fan my whole life, but I've been an obsessive fan for years. Once I discovered football and I never looked back. It was like, where have you been all my life? I currently have 4 fantasy teams, subscribe to DAZN, and watch anywhere from 5 to 12 games a week. As a Canadian, I never really got into CFL. It just didn't have the same weight with only 9 teams. Recently, though, it's been my consolation prize once NFL season ends, and Argos games are a blast, and my family really enjoys seeing the games in person. With the NFL, I don't have a team per se, but I have multiple teams that I root for. I love the Bills, Lions, Seahawks, and Eagles. I root for guys like Josh Allen and Sam Darnold just as much as the teams themselves. Ultimately, though, I watch football for relaxation, for escape from the grind of life, and especially to bond with my son, who has recently gotten into it as well. I am thankful for the pure enjoyment the NFL brings me each week, and I'm already beginning to feel the season end looming and not looking forward to the offseason. That makes 2 of us. Absolutely.
This is exactly how I feel, except instead of my son, it's my spouse. Like getting to know more about what he loves so deeply and understands so exactly has been such a joy for me. And I think that that will be true for your son too, as he grows into the same things that you are telling him and love about football and all that. I think he'll do the same thing because I'll talk about this later, but I have recently realized that every year I have a different strata that I add to my education.
Oh, yeah.
That he's done 3-4 decades ago.
Yeah. A's now what I would call phase 3 of football knowledge.
You like cover 1, cover 2, cover 3.
We're starting to get into we're getting into combo covers and cover 1, cover 2, man coverage, how to watch for motion to understand what is happening. We're not going to get into that right now. In the chat room, though, Sean Dyer says, what's his name from Ancestor was on the Argos, right?
Yeah.
In my novel, Ancestor, which is a New York Times best-selling novel. You can find that at scottsigler.com/ancestor. The character Magnus Paglione was a former player for the Toronto Argonauts. And that was my hat tip to football in countries that aren't America. He's not a good guy, but he was a damn good football player. I will tell you that.
So we need to tell our story. So do you want to read Rory's or do you want me to?
Read Rory's and then we're moving on.
All right,
I'll read Rory's and then you can move on to yours and we'll close out with mine. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
Rory O'Gorman says, first and foremost, I am thankful to you two. Scott, you have made my day on many an occasion. That is nice. The words of Slay, Infected, Nocturnal, GFL, and the others I've yet to explore have kept me enthralled and coming back for more. You make sure to follow up and follow through on his orders. You followed up on a lost order you thought was just taking a little longer than expected while on vacation. You get the books shipped again and even had the FDO sign one for me, which caused a total fanboy moment when I saw it.
Yeah, books got lost is what he's talking about. Books got lost in the mail and we reshipped them.
Second, the NFL has been a constant in my life over the last 30-some years. It has brought me closer to a brother and given me friends I never thought I would have. A big thank you for fantasy football as well. While some hate it, I love it. Plus, it gives me a reason to keep up with the teams. That's fantastic.
Talking about fantasy is so important. And I'm going to talk about my experience. It will include fantasy later on in the story. But I think I had I had to join a fantasy team when I picked my team, I would have died. Literally died on the spot. It was too much. But now I learn so much more about football and interactions of the players and interaction, like literal personality interactions matter and stuff like that. So I will tell you, my experience with football is quite a lot different than Scott's and similar to some of yours, especially Michael Evan. My only experience with football before meeting Scott in 2008 was enjoying the Sunday snack plates my stepdad made, falling down the concrete stairs at Giant Stadium during Country Sunday and having my only ambulance ride of my entire life.
Oh my gosh.
And being at the snack tray while Joe Theismann's thigh injury happened in 1985.
Yes.
So I watched that.
That was it. Joe Theismann's injury, not Joe Theismann's thigh injury. It was
Wasn't it a compound fracture in his thigh?
No, it was his lower leg.
Was it lower leg?
Yeah.
Okay. It was terrible. It was a compound fracture, you guys.
Now, if you have seen the movie The Blind Side, which is a fun movie, and it specifically talks about how the Joe Theismann injury completely changed the world of football and made offensive linemen be considered much more critical to the team in regards to how much you pay offensive linemen, how much you pay your left tackle to protect your quarterback's blind side or right tackle, depending on which hand they are.
I do have to add, my brother, who's in the chat room on Facebook, adds my other experience with football before 2008 was destroying his Steelers memorabilia, which I did, I believe, at 8 years old, maybe 10 years old, and it was terrible, and I'm still sorry about it. Anyway, my only thing that I had to do in late 2008, we started working on the rookie. I was doing the logistics for the rookie, and I was hiring editors, and I was working on the edit and all that stuff. Didn't know anything. And yet, we're doing that, and he says, "Who's your football team?" And I'm all, "The Krakens." He's like, No. Who's your football team? I was like, "The Krakens." He's like, "You have to pick a human football team."
Yep.
So I picked the Jets because my brother and my dad are Jets fans.
Because if they're going to suffer, you're going to suffer. That makes perfect sense.
I didn't know that at the time, but yes. And then another thing I love about the NFL is how much there is to learn. I think that as I grow older, learning brand new things helps me stay vital and alive. I tried to learn video games at 54. It didn't go well. I tried to learn photography. It's going okay. But football, year over year, I get to just like deep dive into a new thing. And in this season, which I believe is my 16th season watching football, I might be wrong about that. What I love this year is a better understanding of what the ref's job is and the number of infractions that they have to weigh
It's
on
incredible.
the field. It's encyclopedic. They have to watch, and it could be an offsides, it could be a false start, it could also be illegal formation. There's so many things it could be, and they have to choose the right unassailable thing. And that has to be impossibly hard, I think. So I love that. And I love fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
For the last few years, I have had a weekly pick league.
A Pick'em League, I believe
Pick'em
it's
league,
called.
okay. Which has been educational and fun and interesting. And this year I joined a drafting league, and we had to auto pick on the first day of the NFL. And I don't know anything that's going on there, and I'm bad at it, but I'm learning so much about how you trade and why things matter and about the injured reserve and things like that.
Point of order, Your Honor. A is also in first place in our fantasy league.
It was an auto
And
pick.
I am second from last in our fantasy league, despite actively trading and picking up free agents and doing a lot of other things. But A is in fucking first place. So there you go. Good. Continue.
Oh, okay. I will say, I have a few more things to say. I absolutely love the NFL for the ritual of football Sundays at home. Although I still don't understand the superstitions, I love the routine. I love knowing what the day looks like. That's rare for us, and it's beautiful.
Mhm.
And then the other thing I'll say, I've just a few more things to say. I love how many communities crop up around the NFL. There are, in this town, in San Diego, California, which doesn't have an NFL team, you can find a bar and a community of people for every one of the NFL teams and go and watch football with your peeps the whole time. And I love that. That's rare and cool. I also love that the teams and the owners and the league themselves engage in a lot of community outreach for housing, for kids, for autism awareness, things like that. I think that's so important. And then the two other things I have to say, I love how easy it is to see how much the game means to every player on the field.
Mhm.
And this is a hard way to say this.
Desperate addiction. Yeah.
And the way you see it is always when somebody misses an important catch or pass or throw or something, and they head in hands, pounding the turf. Like, it's so human. It's really hard.
That's a great
It's
phrase.
hard to walk away
It's so
from.
human. Yeah.
It's so human. And we all have felt that doing stupid things. And they are doing a very important, vital thing for their job. And then they have that moment, which everybody has. Oh, it's just so human, and it slays me.
Yeah.
And the last thing I'll say is I would like to thank the Jets front office for hiring Aaron Rodgers in the same year that the Detroit Lions were on HBO's Hard Knocks. I loved the Jets. I fucking hate anti-vaxxer Aaron Rodgers. And when the Jets ownership hired Aaron Rodgers with the money they made from Johnson & Johnson, I no longer am a Jets fan. But I got to watch Hard Knocks, and I got to meet a lot of those players, and now I'm completely invested in the Detroit Lions. But I do still think that Red Pop is too sweet.
It's Faygo Red Pop is very, very sweet. It is absolutely fact. All right, so now let's get into. You knew it was gonna be hot, didn't you?
Yeah, but not that out.
This. All right, Steve, cut this shit up. I thought you would know to only take a little sip. I'm so sorry, babe.
I did take it. Just it was hotter than
I had this fucking Stanley mug. It basically would hold plasma from the sun in its inert form for the entirety of existence. All right, ready to get back into it? Okay, here we go. And now, wait, hold on. Okay, it is my turn, but first we got to read Kim Hansen's comment in the chat room. Unfortunately, Thanksgiving football separates my family. Some of the members are neurodivergent and can't stand the noise and yelling and everyone glued to the TV. So football is happening for family members. 4 family members won't show up. That's the thing I had not considered before. That is absolutely something to think about. We're going to talk about why I'm thankful for the NFL now. Number one, football is absolutely my blood, as we mentioned earlier. My literal first memories as a human being were watching football filming. I can still remember sitting on coach's knee and watching him study film. And of course, that was coach when my mom, Carol, was like, Irvin, can you just watch the children for a little bit? He would just send me there. We would watch football film. And if I remember correctly, I was absolutely fucking mesmerized from square one. And that was black and white, and it was forward, reverse, forward, reverse, forward, reverse. And it was for my ADD, I think, that I had even at that age, the constant of him watching back and forth, watching the same play 27 times. So you watch every player do everything. It absolutely resonated with me, and I've been enamored with it ever since. Football is a source of joy for me. It is a celebration of hard work, dedication, sacrifice, and all of that combined with a high degree of natural athleticism and ability. You're not going to make it to the NFL if you're not born with extraordinary gifts. And if you're born with extraordinary gifts, you're not going to make the NFL unless you absolutely work your ass off. And then it just gets lucky from there. Now, my wife has to watch me watch the Lions sometimes. It probably does not look like I'm joyful. I'm not joyful when I watch the Lions. It is very, very difficult.
It's a lot of work for you.
It's grueling. It is grueling to watch the games. I am thankful to have lived long enough to watch the progress of American football and see how the game has changed over the years. By the same token, I'm a little jealous of regular football, where the rules have basically not changed at all in over a century. If they have, I'm not aware of it. But in the NFL, there are constant rule changes, trying to keep up with bigger bodies, faster bodies, different strategies, etc. Learning how everything changes is part of the fun, even though I have to text Rob Otto every Sunday. Every Sunday, I'm like, what the fuck is this?
And often for me.
This isn't how the rule worked. And he's like, yeah, that changed like 8 years ago. I'm like, all right, fucking whatever. Fine.
And often for me, he texts because I ask a question. He's like, oh.
I thought I knew, but I don't
Robbie
know.
knows.
I don't know. Robbie knows. I'll text Robbie. So I'm also grateful for the NFL because obviously it inspired me to write the Galactic Football League, which we'll be talking about next week. If any of you in the chat room want to get your reasons for why you're grateful for the GFL in, send that to info@emptyset.com. We will absolutely talk about that when that comes in. But my love for the NFL, my love for football, high school football, college football, is what led me to want to write a sports-related sci-fi story for many reasons. One of the biggest ones is I am a nerd. I hang out with nerds, and I got fatigued by the number of my nerd friends who would shit on people who play sports. And I got exhausted trying to find any science fiction books anywhere that incorporated sports, and every single time the jocks were a punchline. They were one-dimensional character. They were stupid. They were bullies. They were assholes. And I'm like, dude, that is not my experience playing sports. So I wanted to create something where the athletes are celebrated.
I do think that is totally true. There are so few, in my experience, books written about sports that are for non-sporty people written by an athlete. Ooh. Thank you. There are so few sports books written for non-sporty people that are still written by an athlete who understands the rules. I agree with him. I think a lot of the books that I read before I was watching football that talked about sports in general, which is the only sport I really watch, they tend to be a placeholder for an archetype. And the archetype is almost always young dumb jock or old dumb jock or past his prime jock or something.
Yeah.
And I had no reason to not understand that until I started to watch football.
So I'm thankful for the NFL as being part of the impetus to drive me to write the GFL. And the reasons I write the GFL are many storied. And we've talked about this many times in this cast, and we'll talk about it many times in the future. But for me, I think one of the biggest, probably the biggest reason I am grateful and thankful for football is it gives me something to talk about with my family. As my mom and dad have gotten older, they have grown far more conservative, and not what I would call an actual conservative who understands things. They're largely absorbing what they see on Fox, and they're absorbing propaganda. And it's been very difficult to watch the people who raised me with my particular moral code sort of shift their moral code. But football doesn't factor into that whatsoever. My mom and dad aren't really into sci-fi or fantasy. I don't think my dad reads fiction at all, except for my books. And he loves the GFL.
He loves all your books.
And my mom reads nothing but fiction, but she does not read my books at all. She reads a lot of Danielle Steele and the romantic type books.
She's also read some of his work, and it's scary for her. So I think that's a big part of the reason.
She's not a Stephen King reader or a Scott Sigler reader. So my parents, really aren't into the arts at all, other than to support anyone they know who is in the arts. They don't consume that, so that we can't talk about those things either. And my brother, Irv, who's a fantastic guy, he and I, politically and worldview wise, we don't really see eye to eye on a lot of things. And we have learned over the years, there's just stuff we're just not going to talk about because it's not going to end well. But I can always talk to my brother about football. Even though he doesn't follow the NFL, I'll be like, hey, did you see the story in the NFL? And he'll be like, no, I didn't. I'll look that up. And he will send me links like every other week. I get a link, a video about the Lions, a video about Dan Campbell, the coach of the Lions. Or like, look at this guy. This guy works so hard. And it's really the primary anchor to me for my family is football. My nephews and nieces, who are all phenomenal human beings, are very, very religious people. I am an atheist. So that is sort of everybody's happy to talk about these things, but we all know we're not going to find common ground. But my nephew, Tyler, just took me and my nephew, Caden, to a Lions game in Detroit. And it was it was a Monday Night Football in Detroit and against Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And it was an absolutely irreplaceable, magnificent moment with two young men that are now fathers and have families of their own, for us to get together in the same place and share this experience and share the family love. And without football, that's not really a thing. I think football is the lingua franca of the Sigler family. No matter what's going on, there's always something to talk about. There's always something to share. It's not that football brings us closer. The NFL and football in general helps keep us from drifting apart. And for someone who is diametrically opposed to most of their family and most things of a political nature, that is an absolute godsend. It is a great thing, and I'm wonderfully grateful for it.
I will say another facet of that is I have grown relationships with some of my family because now I can talk a different language. Mm-hmm. I came into it quite late. I mentioned I didn't watch football until I met him, but my brother and my dad did. And now my mom and dad live here in California, and I see them every week. And I can now thoughtfully talk about something complex with my dad in a way that we haven't had totally normally for reasons, right? Like my mom was always my confidant. My mom is not a sports fan. My mom is not a football fan. She's trying. She likes that we like it. And I think that's the size of things. She wants a jersey that on the back says chopped liver because she's just chopped liver when we're watching football. And I might get her that because she's wrong. She could enjoy it. And this is the thing I also think I did. I was a little snobby as not a sports fan. early on, and I was like, well, this is just a game. And the amount that I want to take that back from my life, this is just a game. There are literally thousands of people who support their family, who have great, deep, enduring friendships, who do good, hard work every week, who play football, who coach football, who train football, who front office football. And those people are not fucking playing.
No, it's not.
None of those people are playing a game. I did that a lot when I was younger. I said, oh, it's just a game. It's just a fucking game.
Yeah.
No, it is not.
It is a game. It's also $1 billion entertainment industry.
And those people have people counting on them. So every time we talk about, oh, we have this option for a movie, or oh, we got to see this set because somebody is interested in one of Scott's works, there are hundreds of people invested in that piece of fiction.
Yep.
That's no more a game than a Sunday Cardinals game is. It's not a game for the purposes of providing people security, safety, future, all that jazz.
It is a game that is a very serious business that provides a livelihood for a lot of people.
Yeah.
That is it for this episode of Deep Cuts.
We will be back next week with part 2 of our Thanksgiving cast, which is why we are thankful for the GFL, the Galactic Football League.
If you have thoughts on why you are thankful for the GFL, which is now a 6-book series, soon to be a 7-book series with 6 novellas, you can learn more about it at scottsigler.com/GFL. You can send why you are grateful for the GFL to info@emptyset.com.
And if any of you have already sent that in, we have those. We just didn't talk about them this week because they're for next week.
And until the next episode, you all smell an awful lot like flowers. Goodbye. No, don't stop. Oh, that's it. Stop. There we go. Save.
Thank you guys so much for joining.
We had a question in the chat room I'm going to address right now. Let's see. Don Shipley asked.
Oh, yeah.
So this will be controversial here, but this is my opinion. Do injuries sustained by young players due to injuries sustained by young players? I do not think that tackle football should be played until they get to college, maybe as a senior in high school, but not any sooner. Don, I share some of your thoughts on this. I don't think tackle football, pee-wee football, little league tackle, you should not be playing tackle football until you're at least a freshman in high school and possibly even a sophomore in high school. Because it is a sport that there's a price to pay for injuries, particularly injuries to the noggin. Oh, hold on. We got to get your mama a Kraken's jersey that says chopped liver on the back.
Okay.
And the NFL is being dragged into the 21st century and starting to address the violence of the game because the people who play the game and love the game and make everybody else all the money are the ones who are having significant cognitive difficulty as they get into like their late 30s and their 40s.
Yeah.
And it is a game where the last time I checked, the average lifespan of an NFL lineman was 7 to 8 years shorter than the average lifespan of a typical American male. So people are paying a very high price to play this game. I think most of them would gladly pay that price, but there soon needs to be a reckoning with equipment and rules. This is a great game, and there's just no reason for people to get the shit knocked out of their brain 24/7.
So a couple things there. Sean in the Twitch chat room says that's true about how long and young they should be tackled or whatever. But kids that small aren't really delivering the big hits quite yet. And that's quite important. So Pop Warner football, you're learning the rules, you're learning the game. I guess I didn't play. I agree. However, when you join football intramurally, is it called?
Intramural touch flag football?
Or when you play in schools?
That's intramural. Intramural is other schools. Intermural is
Intermural. Okay. So intermural football doesn't have any kind of rating or ranking to say, oh, this fifth grader seems to be 130 pounds
Yes.
and a fucking giant, and he will absolutely run over my 40-pound fifth grader. They don't do any of that.
Yes.
And there's the problem there. You're right. They can't do a huge amount of damage, but a 100-pound player knocking down a 40-pound player, that noggin is going to hit the turf, and that brain is going to bounce the same way.
The damage is relative. If you are a 100-pound kid hitting a 70-pound kid, that is a comparable relative impact to a 220-pound man hitting a 200-pound man, right? It's not the same, but it's in the ballpark. And the other thing is young bodies are still growing, still forming.
Right.
A lot of connective tissue, a lot of brain still developing. This full contact American football is a sport that you should be able to decide on that at some point, relative in the range when you're allowed to decide whether you want to go to the military, whether you have the right to vote, whether you have the right to drink. A lot of the skills in football, most of those could be taught without the high caliber of hits that are why football has been celebrated by many people, including me, for most of my life. The big hits are part of why you watch the game. It is a violent game. There is a price to pay, but I think that could be better. Recluse Mage in chat room says, that gave me a question about the GFL. In all the advanced medicine and safety equipment, how have they not found a better way to prevent and treat concussions? We talk about this in the GFL because you can put all the armor you want around the outside of the human body. What you cannot do is introduce a buffer or a shock absorber between the inside of the skull and the brain. What a concussion is your head being moved so violently in one direction that your brain hits the inside of your skull.
Yep.
In the GFL, that is addressed throughout the GFL. You cannot put things between your brain and your skull. And as people get bigger and faster and stronger, which has been a exponential increase in the size, strength, and speed of players. To give you perspective on this, in 1960, the average weight of an offensive lineman in the NFL was 253 pounds.
Wow.
Now that's 65 years ago.
Yeah.
But at 253 pounds, if you meet someone who's an athletic guy, 253 pounds, that's a big person. That's a big, strong person. They couldn't even play Division II football. They wouldn't make the team. They probably wouldn't make most Division III football, and they would have no chance in hell of playing the offensive line for the NFL because now the average age of an NFL offensive lineman is, I think, 320. They're massive. So people keep getting bigger, people getting stronger, they keep getting faster, and force equals mass times acceleration, and the skill level at which they are trained to hit people is astronomically more. A 16-year-old young man playing football knows how to lay a hit better than probably people did in 1950.
For sure. And I also think the thing you just said about there is not a pathway. They have introduced those cool sort of puffy helmets that protect the head and neck from an impact on the turf. However, what happens inside, of course, if you don't know this, I think everybody knows this, but if you don't know this, your brain is floating inside your head, inside cerebrospinal fluid. I appreciate that it is tethered by your cerebellum, but it is still kind of wobbling around here in your brain inside cerebrospinal fluid. So if I slam my head back, the helmet will protect my neck and my head, but my brain, which is free floating, is still going to smack against this back part of my head when I hit the ground. And there's not a lot you can do about that. I will say, I'm a medicinal chemist by training, as you guys know. That is also true sort of chemically for your brain. Your brain is so well protected because it is the driver for your life, right? So your brain is so well protected that there's not even things that can fit in through your in your blood into your brain, that is also managed. It's quite complex and
me.
it's quite hard, but a physical protection for your brain, it's sort of like protecting goldfish in a bowl when you throw the bowl on the ground.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
can't happen.
So that's the gist of it. So, which is another thing that's again addressed in the GFL, and the force delivered by these players continues to increase. The only way to solve this problem is the big puffy helmets need to become standard equipment, which the NFL won't do because they think it looks silly. And improvements in helmets have made drastic, exponential improvement. The protection of an NFL helmet right now is miles away from what it was in even like 1980, 1990. It's drastically better. It's still not good enough.
And I believe the only reason we haven't seen a player die on the field, I know we had a player die eventually of a heart attack that he had on the field. The only reason we haven't seen a player actually die on the field is because of the technology for the helmets.
I'd say that is 100% accurate. Watching these assassins, particularly the linebacker and the safety and the cornerback position, watching them hit people, or even watching a running back lower his head, a 225-pound running back that can squat 500 pounds, running through the line and crashing into a linebacker is a level of concussive force that wasn't even conceivable in 1970. Like the Steelers won the Super Bowls, any one of these running backs would have been the MVP of the NFL. A second-string running back in the NFL today would have been the MVP of the NFL in 1970. It's shocking how much we have developed in strength coaching, in nutrition, in training, and the genetic pre-selection. If you're big and you're strong, now there's a coach talking to you when you're 9 or 10 years old. Son, you need to come into the football program.
Now think about that. Talking to you when you're 9, 10, 15, 16, 17. You know what else you are? A fucking idiot, because you're a child. You're an infant. You don't know what you're doing. Think about the mistakes you made at 19 years old.
Well, they're not playing. I'm just saying you are being groomed to come into the league.
No, I know
if people see you're big and strong.
What I'm saying is they're doing that and they're telling you you're fantastic and you're ready. But the things that aren't ready are your 15-year-old decision-making skills, your 17-year-old decision-making skills. I posit that every one of you that can hear my voice, if I say, hey, did you do anything stupid at 19 years old? You'll be like, oh, Lord, did I? Because I sure did.
Yeah.
And those are the people that we are putting in those positions. They are 19, 20, 21. And while they have the physical prowess, they might not have the mental protection that they need for their 50-year-old selves.
And NFL has done a lot of work on that as of late. And to be honest, they've absolutely been shamed into addressing the health of their primary employee and their revenue source, which is the players. People said for a long time, like, people are getting fucked up, man. There's people in their late 30s who've got Alzheimer's. People are degenerating. They have so many injuries. They can't function as a human being, but the NFL didn't care because they weren't on the field. And they hadn't been on the field for a decade. And these were these invisible people.
Yeah.
And since it has come to the fore, the Will Smith movie was a big part of that. They are now targeting, intentionally hitting people in the head. They are aggressively pursuing that with rules changes. So the NFL is now trying to make a difference. And I think they've finally seen the light, which is, okay, maybe it's not as macho of a sport as it used to be, but now you can have quarterbacks playing into their late 30s and into their 40s.
I think
The NFL has figured out, we want the best athletes and the best football players on the field for as long as they can be on the field. They finally understood it's Tom Brady playing into his 40s brought more people in the NFL than a Tom Brady who washes out at 27 because now he has to eat all his soup through a straw.
And not for nothing, I think Joe Flacco this season is sort of proving like you don't have to burn out and fade away. You know, there is a purpose. I think Kirk Cousins in the last couple of years, knowing that he was a senior edge, like sort of storied quarterback and could be a help to the project quarterback or the new quarterback or whatever, I think that is a position that is so valuable. And we're seeing Joe Flacco do good things this season for that reason. And I think I'm not mad about this trajectory.
And Joe Flacco, he's a quarterback for the Bengals. He was a quarterback for the Browns. Browns traded him to the Bengals. He has put up lights out numbers, and he's 40. And this would not have happened if the NFL had not changed the rules to better protect the quarterback, which is the most important position in football. That's just the way it is. They're protecting quarterbacks. Eventually, the protections given to the quarterbacks are going to radiate out to the rest of the players. So, again, the NFL is making strides to keep their employees healthier and to give their employees a longer lifespan where they are not overly burdened or compromised by their injuries. That said, that's never going to be a zero-sum game.
Never.
People get hurt in football and get hurt bad in football. But going back to A's concept of like 15-year-olds make dumb decisions, I had to threaten to run away from my house to be able to play football. When my freshman year came up, and I think I weighed 78 pounds. I was real small, you guys, real small. And my parents sat down and talked to me, and Carol made coach, my dad coach, my mom, Carol.
I love them.
Made coach sit down with me and said, well, son, I've been talking to the golf coach, Mr. Granat, and he'd love to have you on the team. He knows you're a good athlete, even though you're small. And if you want to come out for the golf team, and your mother and I have some concerns about your size, and football might not be the safest sport for you. Now, my dad was the head coach of a football team in a small town in Michigan, which basically makes him God. People didn't know who the mayor were. They knew my dad was. And my dad's an intensely proud man. He had to come and sit down and say, mister, if you want to play golf, we're ready. I'll show you how to do it. I think you do very well at golf. And I was watching my dad, and I don't see my dad sweat very often. He was sweating from the forehead. He was like, he did not want to say this shit.
How'd that go?
And I looked at my mom and my dad. We're sitting in the living room. They made me sit down in the living room. I was this big around. I look like toothpicks with a giant light bulb on top of my neck. It was terrible. And I looked them both dead. And this is the first significantly adult decision I ever made in my life where I wasn't intimidated by anybody. I looked them both in the eye and said, if you don't let me play football, I will run away and you will never see me again as long as you live.
One of the first things Coach ever said to me was this story.
Fucking dead-eyed. Like, I am from Columbia and will put a bullet through your fucking head and give you a Columbia necktie. And then my dad does one of the probably the coolest thing he ever did. He stands up, throws him in, and he goes, well, Carol, I asked him. And he walked out of the room and left my mom hanging, left her completely hanging. And poor Carol was like, didn't know what to do. So I just folded my arms. I just stared at Carol. I just stared till she got up and left the room. I guess I'm playing football. And I got the shit kicked out of me, dude.
Chaz Bolt on the Facebook chat room says, Dad's thinking, you're killing me, Smalls.
That's the thing. Because Carol was correct. I should not have played football. I was so fucking tiny.
Yeah.
She was right. And she was right to bring it up with my dad.
Yeah.
And my dad was right for brought it up. But at that point, you could just tell he was enormously proud of his son. Then he had to watch his son get the shit kicked out of him for 4 years.
A bunch.
A bunch.
Yeah.
It was great. I loved every minute of it. I would probably be an absolute rocket scientist right now if I went for football. For sure. I got 4 concussions. It's crazy.
We are going to end this live stream, do our post-production, and get on with the rest of our evening. We love you guys so much. Thank you so much for joining us. If you guys have anything to add, if you're still listening and you have anything to add for next week's Why I'm Thankful for the GFL, we would love to hear it. We get a lot of emails about the GFL, but you guys are our ride or dies. So if you guys want to share, we would love to share that with everybody else.
You guys are all awesome. We love you, and we'll be back next week. And I think next week, why people are thankful for the GFL is going to be super fun, and I might get a little verklempt. I might get a little verklempt.
For sure.
Goodbye.
Bye, guys.
Great job, baby.